This session is presented by Lauren Matthews, Jenna Proudlove, and Marta Carlucci. Lauren Matthews is the Director of BC Inclusive Post-Secondary Education and oversees coordination between campuses, staff learning, professional development, and the day-to-day safeguarding of best practices and supporting students to get the most out of their post-secondary education. Jenna Proudlove was 6 months old when diagnosed with CP, cerebral palsy. In 2000, her mom, along with other community members, created Steps Forward, a British Columbia association working with BC universities to place individuals with developmental disabilities in regular university programs. Jenna is an advocate and has an honorary certificate of social work after completing 5 years at the University of Victoria. I think she's a very strong one. Marta Carlucci is an inclusion liaison working on a Steps Forward initiated project with the support of the Vancouver Foundation to scale the impact of inclusive post-secondary education beyond campus communities. Over to you, ladies.
Okay, so hopefully everybody can see that. And so our presentation today is about BC's Inclusive Post-Secondary Initiative, and it is about using university to explore your interests and achieve your career goals. Oh. Why can't I advance it? That's interesting. Oh, here we go. Okay, and so Manjeet did a great introduction, so I can go past that slide and we'll go to the next one here. We're going to start with Jenna. She's going to start us off with family is how we got here.
Hi. She mentioned she's beautiful said, my mother did. My mother was part of the creation of a organization. Because, and the reason why we created this is because when at the time that I was leaving high school, there was nothing like this already existing. So when we create, when nothing is there, we create until it is there. So that's why Steps Forward exists.
Thanks, Jenna. We're so thrilled to have Jenna here as one of the founding families of the initiative, one of the first students at the University of Victoria. And as Jenna was saying, you know, Steps Forward would not exist without families who worked really hard to make sure that this was an opportunity for their sons and daughters. And before Steps Forward, there weren't really post-secondary opportunities, like you were saying, Jenna. So I can share a bit more about, I think it's good to start off with sort of where we came from. I think that's important. So like Jenna was saying, Steps Forward was a family-driven organization. So it started with families who had worked really hard for their sons and daughters to be included in the mainstream classrooms in elementary school and high school, which is still tough to do today. It doesn't always happen. And as their sons and daughters were getting close to their grade 12 graduation or grade 13, they really sat down and started thinking, what's next? What can I do to make sure that my son or daughter has, a full life in their community? And some of these parents were faculty members of universities. And so they were seeing all of these opportunities that young people who had access to university were able to pursue. And they wanted that option for their family members too. So they started Steps Forward.
I just want to interject before you continue really quick. If when I graduated, I can walk, I can go across the stage with my peers. And so when I graduated, I basically had to graduate in a food court in a ballroom because at the time the UVic wasn't allowing steps for students to be with their peers. And so, but now thanks to a petition, now that is possible.
Mm-hmm. So Jenna, you're saying when you graduated from UVic, you didn't get to cross the stage at convocation with your peers, but now that is an option. Yeah.
Yep.
So now at every university that we're partnered at, students do cross the stage at convocation, wearing gowns and hats and everything, which is exciting. So now, when we first started, we started with UBC and then brought into UVic and Emily Carr. But today we're partnered with 8 universities across BC. So we support students at the University of Victoria, at UBC, both Vancouver campus and the Okanagan campus, at SFU, NVIT, which is in Merritt, VIU, which is in Nanaimo, Emily Carr, and Trinity Western. And I think probably the biggest question on everyone's mind is who can go to university? And we really truly believe that everyone should have an opportunity to attend and benefit from university. So we have, there are no academic prerequisites, so it does not matter what diploma you got in grade 12. There's no upgrading, there's no support related requirements, but students must be eligible for CLBC funding. And kind of building off that dedication to ensure that everyone has access to post-secondary, we have a dedication that's in our mission and vision that we will and do support students with what might be considered significant or complex support needs at all campuses at all times. So we've talked about sort of what's not required. So talking about what is required is important too. So we're looking for students who have, drive, motivation, commitment to continue their studies at university, that understand sort of the time commitment of 4 to 5 years, so the same length of time as a bachelor's undergraduate, who are willing to put the work in. So students that we support at university access courses through what's called a participatory auditing status. And what that means is that the courses are non-crediting, which allows the facilitators at each campus to modify that work sort of as much or as little as needed for that student's individual learning styles. But with that said, there are exams, there are assignments, they'll be modified to suit the individual student, but they're there and they can be stressful. So students who get that and who still are really dedicated to wanting to do their studies. A desire to continue your education and a fit of what you want to study and what the university offers. So we might ask, what academic subjects are you interested in? What's sort of your career vision or a field that you'd really like to work in? And do those things match up with what the university that you're applying to has to offer? And Jenna, I think you can speak a lot too. So what's needed to be a university student?
So, but again, of course, what is needed is drive. You have to know what it is that you want, which you after school, after university, what is your intention? What's your goal? What are you working towards? Because if you just taking work, if you're going to a university and shift for ask you what do you think you want to do? You want to move. You have to create a vision board. You have to, before you go into the schools, you have to create a vision board for yourself.
That's an important part of preparing, right? Doing that visioning work and goal setting.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you help them understand what exactly it is that you're after.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a perfect segue into the role of the campus facilitator. So at each university that we're partnered with, there are usually 2 facilitators that work on campus. Some of the smaller campuses may just have 1. And that facilitator's role is to work with students directly to provide all of the information and support that students might need to make their own choices and to have every opportunity at university they want to have, to build confidence in seeking those opportunities. And I mentioned, I think already, working with professors and the student to modify those course materials to suit the individual student. And they also sort of work as a resource to campus staff and faculty who may not have had the opportunity to be part of an inclusive learning community before. So also building the capacity of the classroom and the university to include more people.
Okay, so thank you, Jenna and Lauren. We want to ask the audience a question now.
Yes, you.
So we want to know who in the audience has ever considered or wants to attend university or college. You can do a thumbs up yes if that's something you would like to do, or you can do that emoji with the surprised face for a no. And if you like, everybody can scroll through the audience and see who's using the emojis. So we'll get you to do that now.
Can you scroll for me?
I'm seeing lots of thumbs.
So Jenna, yeah, you'll have to scroll separately on your iPad, but what I'm seeing is lots of thumbs up. I didn't see any surprise faces. So
That's good.
good, I'm for sure. Okay, we're going to go on. Thanks for that, everybody. We're going to go on to the next slide.
All right.
And so, yeah, Jenna, we want to ask you, how did you make the decision to go to university?
So I mean, we as a family made decision because we have a model in our family, nothing but we shoot that, that means that we have to, we want to create, because obviously I'm not typical, I have disability, but we want to create a non-typical, a not non-typical, typical experience. So when so my mom helped me make the decision to go to UVic. I was terrified beyond belief because I knew that there was going to be an obvious target on my back. Because when you're in a wheelchair, there is a target on your back immediately. So I knew that going in, but my mom helped me, and my caregiver helped me make like his steps work, help me make that target not too big.
Jenna, how did you flip your fears? You said you were initially terrified to go. How did you flip that?
And I will explain that a little bit more when later. But essentially, it's all up to steps because steps or steps facilitators are the ones who go into classes and talk to the students and explain what steps is, and that persons with disabilities just want to be like you and things like that. And so when I go into a class in my wheelchair with a target running on my back, the target is not that big. Because if you go into class with a target on your back and you don't know anybody whatsoever in that class, of course it's gonna be a nightmare. But if one of your fellow peers says to you, "Hi, my name is so and so, come and sit with me, sit beside me, I will share my notes with you, or I will answer your questions with you."
Thanks, Jenna. So those introductions, that facilitator support really makes a difference.
It's the key.
Thanks.
It's a key.
Thanks so much, Jenna.
No problem.
So the next slide talks about how did your family support you while at university? And we had the opportunity when we were preparing this presentation to talk to Jenna's mom. So I just wanted to we just wanted a slide to briefly talk about that. And, you know, Jenna's mom talked about sort of the role of families in this commitment to university, helping your son or daughter to get ready to university, to get to campus, and making sure always that there's supportive people around the family member. It was just a normal step to go to university for the family, for Jenna's family in particular. And as Jenna mentioned earlier, they were always planning around inclusive experiences for Jenna. It was a lot of hard work to make those spaces and places accessible, but that was the motto for the family as well. And the quote, "If there's anything you want to do, we will find a way to do it." So that's the family motto for Jenna. I also wanted to reiterate that it's not easy. It's not. So, but you have to have like a shared determination as a family to make it happen. And Jenna will talk a little bit about that later in the presentation too. So our next question, we're going to do this again, either the thumbs up or the surprise face for no. You can go to the bottom of your screen where the emotions are, or when we're sharing the screen. Actually, I think what I'll do this time is I'll stop sharing so we can see everybody. Okay, so before this presentation, did you know that you had the choice to go to university? So I'm going to stop sharing, and if everybody can use their happy faces or their hands up. Okay. Great. Thanks, everybody. Let's go on to the next slide. So this is the next slide. Let me just get caught up here to ask Jenna. Jenna, did you know that you could go to university?
I didn't know. At the time that we created Huey, at the time, because I was I'm a part of the creation. At the time that we create steps, but at the time before we create steps, I had no idea. Because I had to add another year into grade 13 of high school because my mom couldn't figure out what to do with me at the time because she was working and she was dead. So I was essentially, as much as I didn't like it, I was stuck with another grade of high school because there was no option because we had no idea we could do this. There was nothing like this. So there was no indication. The hope was there. The hope was there, but there was no indication to the hope.
Right.
If that makes sense.
So yeah, so Jenna, like you created it, it wasn't there. So families came together and created this opportunity that didn't exist before.
Yes, because they were, at the time when I was in high school, there was no, we as a family, where do we go from here? Because there was no other option at
Right.
the time. Hence why we created steps when we did.
Right. Thank you, Jenna. And this was like a natural progression for any student. So why shouldn't it be available
It is.
to you and students with developmental disabilities?
It
Thanks,
is.
Jenna. So we're going to hand it over to Lauren and Jenna.
Yeah, so just to give a bit of a picture of what does it look like to be a university student supported by Steps Forward. Kind of just going through the basics. And of course, it's going to look a little different for every student because every student's different and taking different classes and at different universities. But generally, students select courses. They'll usually select a program of study first. So something, an academic interest. So Jenna, it was social work. But it could be education, it could be sciences, it could be something more specific, marine biology. So selecting classes, going to the same classes as any other bachelor's sort of level student. Inclusion facilitators are on campus. They would meet with you sort of before, after class. They're available on campus for sort of whatever things come up. So that could be, getting to know the campus, finding out what your classes are, meeting your professors in advance, maybe finding out about clubs or events on campus that you might be interested in, anything that's a goal for a student at university. As I mentioned before too, the course material, assignments, and exams can be adjusted to suit individual learning styles and strengths. Facilitators will kind of go through this with students individually, figure out sort of what works best for you, communicate that to the prof, maybe with you. So sometimes it might be the student, facilitator, and prof all sitting down together to think about, okay, what are assignments going to look like? What's the best fit for this student? Sort of building friendships, joining clubs and student societies, planning events. Students in their third and fourth year might be, doing leadership opportunities where they're mentoring first year students. All of the same things that any other student is doing at university. And also something that comes with university is often finding paid employment on campus or off-campus work that's related to what you're studying. Mm-hmm.
Hi, Maureen.
Yeah.
I was supposed to help you.
Oh, sorry. I got through it too fast. So you wanted to say
No,
it was,
no worries.
sorry.
I just wanted to say,
Mm-hmm.
for number 2, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask questions if you're a student.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't ask questions, you get the answers. As far as number 5, I couldn't sure had to throw my weight around because Steps got me a job opportunity, but within UVic, but I could instance force up against the wall to hire me. Like, because I'm a very organized person, so I said, let me help you clean up this disaster miss. You got going on back here. So they did, and they paid me to do it too. So it works if you as a student use your power. Because steps will help you find your power. You just gotta use it. Because steps is not gonna help you. They're not gonna help you use your power. They're just gonna help you find your power. It's up to you to use it. Use your tools that they help you find.
Oh, thank you, Jenna. Yeah. Yeah, such a good example. So you worked on campus, and that's a good description of sort of the facilitator's role too. They're not there to do stuff for you. They're there to support students to achieve all of the things that they want to achieve, but it comes from the student first. Totally.
And if you're a new student on steps for caseload, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be so hard to. It's gonna be difficult for the student to figure out how what step is able to help you with and what they're not. Because that mind kind of gets blurred a bit.
Yeah.
So,
And that, totally.
so you take a bit of time.
And that's such a common experience for first-year university students. Kind of get there and go like, I don't know what I want to do. And it's helpful, the facilitator to say, well, these are all the options. What looks exciting? And so, yeah, university can influence your career opportunities, sort of using the exact same resources and opportunities that all university students have access to. Some examples on campus. So things that kind of just are naturally built into university life. So it might be co-op placements or practicum placements. Those are usually tied to your academic program of study. So co-op placements are optional. A student would apply for a co-op term and probably third or fourth year usually. Those are paid opportunities that are built into your studies. Practicum placements, those are usually built into a program of study. So you don't have to necessarily apply for them. They would just kind of be built into, a second or third or fourth year of study. So an example of a practicum placement might be for an education student. They may, in say third year, go work for 6 weeks in a school, and that's part of a course. And practicum placements are generally not paid, but they're really good work experience. Whereas co-op placements are paid opportunities. There's also campus employment. So lots of university students want to work on campus. It's a great opportunity to get to know, other people who are working on campus, your profs, people who are, peers who are around or in different spaces. So examples of that could be working in the library, bookstore, in athletics, the IT department, the collegium. There's all kinds of different paid employment opportunities on campus that are sort of built into the university. And then of course, student networking and resources. So I'd say most university students are there to build towards a career goal that they have. And so universities know that, and they have, career advisors, resume and cover letter workshops, different types of career fairs, all kinds of opportunities, research assistant positions for students who are wanting to go into sort of continuing into academic fields. And then all of the opportunities that just come from building relationships with profs and peers and finding out what they're doing.
Thanks, Lauren and Jenna. So a question to put out there, how does a student's experience at university lead to opportunities as an alumni? So as somebody, and so as somebody who's graduated and is an alumni, Jenna, how would you answer that question?
It changes your life. Because it opens so many doors. When you are hiring for a job, I'll repeat this when we get there. But when you're hiring for a job, let's say at a disability resource center, it is imperative like you utilize your university experience because you help you relate to your employer. Because your employer will say, oh yeah, I was at UVic for social work, or I was at, so it's helpful. It's going to help me help you, kind of thing. And since you can use your power and your resources and your experiences to help whoever else you're working for or with.
So yeah, thank you, Jenna. Like having, so that shared experience of university, it sounds like has been really powerful for you and can really create create that connection that you might need, or comfort even in a, for instance, in an interview, knowing that you both share the same experience of going to university. Thank you.
No problem.
So on our next slide, how can going to university improve a student's career opportunities? So we talked about this.
Is it for me here?
Yeah, Jenna, but I can, so you've talked about this a bit about the power and confidence, improving your self-worth. It helps improve self-advocacy and community advocacy, and highlights the student's strengths. And I'm wondering if you could speak a bit to, well, any of those, whichever one you want, but I'm particularly curious about highlighting the student's strengths. So any of those that you want to comment on?
Me?
Yes.
Okay. So when you're looking for a job, as you said, because when I was coming out of university, I knew that I had the tools that the university taught me in my back pocket. So I used those tools. I used my heightened my sense of power. I heightened my sense of, like, if they won't give it to you, automatically put another way. Like when I worked at the DLC they look at me and say, because we're a nonprofit, because I said, oh, you can pay me to do this, because it's document work. And because, and I said, because we're a nonprofit, we don't pay our employees. So I accepted a job. I got in my car, closed the door of my car, and phoned my mom and said, we have a phone. I have a job, but they're not paying me. So, and here's the job. But you might pay me to do that job. So when I went to the police station for my criminal record check, which they asked me to do, she phoned me and she said, I will pay you $5 an hour. And I said, okay. You have to be able, if one door closes, another door opens. Even though you've got to force that door to open, it will. You just gotta find another way.
And it sounds like that your experience at university just sort of allowed you to see your confidence and power and what choices you had, and noticing, hey, that's not right if they want to give me a job but then not pay me. And so yeah, you had the confidence to
I did, and it also allowed me to, okay, if they're not gonna let me do this, so I have two choices. Either I help them help me, or I turn around and not take the job.
Right.
Mhm.
Thank you, Jenna.
So it's the student's decision.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. There's always that choice.
Mhm.
So I'm going to go on to the next slide because we're getting close to our time, and we want to leave some time for questions. So I'll hand this over to Lauren, and we'll go from there.
Okay. So I'll skim through this one pretty quick. I was going to dig into a little bit more sort of how we customize roles for students, but maybe I'll just leave it at, so I kind of mentioned before that, so we might support students to get on-campus jobs if that's something that they're interested in doing. And then we also work with students over the summer to find paid employment aligned with their program of interest and or career of interest. And so the way we do that is again, quite person-centered. We work with the student to figure out what's a good, what they want to do, first of all, and what type of roles that might suit sort of their individual strengths and interests. And then we go to the employer. And so most students will have employment opportunities in the summer. Those might be internships that are in a field of interest, all kinds of different employment opportunities. And I think there's some examples on the next slide.
That's after this one, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, they're coming up.
Do you want me to go to that one now and then I can come back? Let's do that. Here we go.
Sure. So and again, this isn't an exhaustive list because we sort of build the role based on the student and then seek out the employer. There's tons and tons more than this, but these are some ones that kind of came to mind as exciting to me. So students have worked in the summer at the Public Guardian and Trustee's office as an administrative assistant. for CBC, for the Canadian Broadcasting Company, at Vancouver Public Library, Elections BC during some of the provincial elections, VIDEA, which is a really cool global nonprofit. So there's a student working, who actually just got a permanent full-time or part-time job there. And she's currently working on a project with someone in South Africa, which is so cool. Nimbus School of Recording Arts. So that was a student who's really into sound design, wanted a job where he not only got to be in that environment with other musicians, but also somewhere he could record his own stuff after his shifts. Kickstart Animation, so that was for an animation student. He got to work on some Netflix specials. Not allowed to tell me anything about them because there's confidentiality agreements, but that's so cool. Vancouver Island Health Authority, so that was for a student who was interested in a job in sort of healthcare field. Capital Regional District in Victoria, Maker Lab Vancouver, so that's a really cool place where people can go in and make their own t-shirts and pins, and that was an art student who was really interested in, again, working somewhere where she got to be around stuff she really loved to do and have that opportunity to also create her own designs sort of after her shifts. And lots more.
Thanks, Lauren. We're just going to go on to the next slide, just based on time. So here's our next question. Are you in high school? We were curious to know if there were others, because the next couple of slides is about that. So you can put a hands up or a thumbs up, I mean, or no with the, so we've got some yeses, some no's.
No, I'm in your guys' Okanagan campus, so I've already been through your guys' stuff. So
that's great. Thank you, Shamira. Okay, so for those that are still in high school, and this is applicable even if you're not, these are some of the things that I'm working on in my project with Steps Forward. And so we're really looking at what does any student in high school have to do to get to post-secondary? If you're graduating with a certificate of completion, or other words in evergreen, you know, you still need to be planning the same way, right? So this project is just looking at those pathways. And so this quote comes directly from the Ministry of Education. They want all students to use these years to learn, discover, grow, explore, and try new things, and choose the paths that best reflect your interests and your dreams. Your future starts here. And that message is for all students. So thinking about high school, not really as a stressful like time, but knowing that you do have a choice. You know, the reality is there aren't as many choices, but, you know, hopefully that will change over time. So really thinking about, you know, what are my choices? What do I want to do? Let's dream big. Let's create a vision. Jenna mentioned vision boards, which I think is a great idea, to think about the things that you want to do, and participating in opportunities related to your own interest. I'm going to quickly go to the next one just because we're running out of time. So this just lays out a little bit more of what you can do in high school. So make sure, like Jenna had on her previous slide, go to your IEP meetings, ask to attend them. You have a voice, and you should be participating in those meetings. Make sure that if you do want to attend post-secondary, that is a goal that's embedded in your IEP, and think about, you know, what do you need, you know, what courses could you be taking in high school that relate to what you want to study at post-secondary, or what you're interested in. You might not even know at this point what you wanted to study in post-secondary. And join high school clubs. Ask about the clubs in the high school. There might be something that you really enjoy and there isn't a club, but if you find champions in your high school, they could help you create that club. So that's another way to just keep building. Steps Forward has scholarships as well. So if you are going down that route, you can apply for a Judith Mossoff scholarship while you're in grade 11 or 12. And think about other scholarships. There are others out there, and you can always reach me if you wanted to get more information. There are families who have they've put themselves out there and tried to get other scholarships that didn't appear to be accessible, and they were successful. Steps Forward also has bursaries available for students who aren't in high school, where may need some financial assistance to participate in post-secondary. And deciding on a university, talk to your school counselor. That's what they're there for. That's their job. Tell them you want to attend post-secondary. Go on websites like My BC Ed. Go to post-secondary education and look at what all the different universities are offering and when their fairs are. So just, let everybody know, spread the word, and let them know that that's what you want to do. Okay, so Lauren's going to go over just the time frame, and then we'll have some time for some questions.
Perfect. So just a basic kind of overview of the application process and timeline. So every year in September or October, openings for all of the different campuses will be posted on our website. Once those openings are posted, students can start applying. So on that same student opening part of the website, our application form is there as a PDF. All you have to do is fill out that PDF, email it to the email that's listed there, and your application's in. There's no cost to applying. Our application due dates align with the due dates of the university. For the most part, they're the end of January. So that's usually a kind of a good timeline just to have in mind. So you can apply sort of any time between that September, October to end of January. And then in February, the campus facilitators will get in touch with every single applicant that's applied and schedule interviews. So this year our interviews have all been virtual, but usually those will be held at the campus you're applying to. So if you've applied to UVic, you would go to UVic to have your interview. If you've applied to SFU, you would go to SFU to have your interview. And those are usually in February. And then in April, May, notifications sort of will go out around whether the application and interview were successful. So students will either receive a letter saying, welcome to your university, or a note saying, thanks so much for applying and please apply again. For any students that didn't get the spot at the university, we also do some community mapping. So the facilitators will have looked at all of the things you put in your application, everything that you talked about in your interview, and they'll offer some suggestions of things you could do in your community, kind of between that time and maybe applying again the next year. Then for students who did get the spot at the university they applied to, we'll start meeting with the facilitators, usually in June or July. So the facilitators can start getting to know the student, can start getting familiar with campus, start selecting courses and maybe meeting some professors that you'll be in classes with in September, and everything goes from there. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you. Thank you, Lauren, Jenna, and Marta for your presentation. That was wonderful. A lot of information to go through. There's been a couple of comments and questions. Yes. One of them is saying she's assuming that things have changed a lot with the pandemic, and but maybe this has made it more inclusive because maybe most people are connecting online anyway. So she's adding her comment on that, and she said if they will also provide the university for less than 5 years, and if that includes some work placements, which I think you explore a little bit of that, but maybe explain some more, Marta or Lauren or Jenna?
Sure. So, work placements aren't necessarily built. It sort of depends on what students are studying. So some programs of study, say an education student, it's very likely there would be some kind of a practicum or work placement built into their program of study. And that there's others that have that kind of naturally in the academic part. But we do work with every student to find either work on campus that kind of goes throughout while they're studying, or work in the summer that that aligns with their studies. So it's a little bit different than a work placement, but there are employment opportunities that are part of it.
Thank you for that. And I know that we're going to be closing very soon because in this tech environment, they're going to summon us back to the main session. I'm just going to say, if you had a couple of comments for those who are maybe have finished high school and they're trying to just connect, well, the steps forward will help them a little bit to do that mapping, because that was a big interest. Like, I already finished high school, but I want to know what to do. Is that something that you're able to do?
Absolutely, yeah. So I think my email is there. It's lauren@steps-forward.org. And I think it's listed on sort of the profiles and stuff connected to this session. So hopefully everybody can go back and collect that if they're interested. But yeah, absolutely. Reach out to me. I'm happy to do that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. And I think we're going to be called back to the breakout rooms. Let me see, that's like, thank yous for the presentation. And some students are thinking, if we still have some seconds, let's squeeze them in. And for example, some of them are saying, like, if there is not a program that is interesting, like the program that they want, it's not available, probably not a university close to them, or if they need to move to a different community, is there something that Steps Forward can guide them on that?
Mm-hmm. So some students do move to go to school. We have supported students to live in residence. So that's a pretty common choice for a student who maybe is moving to a different community. So that's an option. If there's a university that you want to go to that will mean you'll have to move and you want some support, it would be good to get in touch with us early so we can start working on figuring out if residence is a good fit. Or if there's other types of student housing that might be a good fit. Yeah.